Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, welcome back. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the live. I'm so glad that you're here. You're watching us. The new season. I guess this is considered a new season. We're in a new season, y'all. We're talking about something new. So are you guys excited? Today we're going to be talking about marriage. We're welcoming the marriage conversation that we've been talking about for so long. So I'm super excited to get into the conversation with you guys. We're going to be talking about becoming one. That's the theme of this conversation in general, is becoming one. What does that look like? On top of that, we're just going to be talking about today specifically. We are going to be talking about what it means to be a husband and a wife. Okay? Technically, technically, not modern day, not 2024. Technically, by etymological definition, what does it mean? So we're going to go ahead and wait a little bit. I'm going to put a question in the chats so you guys can have something to do. Good morning. You guys can have something to answer. So let me go ahead and put something in here. How are you, Chris? Let me see. Have you, hold up, what is that? Have you ever been married? Yes. No. So we have our poll for today. Okay, come on, go to the side, friend. There we go. We have our poll for today, so make sure you answer the poll, y'all. And we're gonna wait just a little bit to see who all comes in here. I love Chris. You must have your post notifications on. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, thank you. You must have the post notifications on today. We need more people to turn their post notifications on so they know. They know what's up when we going live, what's going on. We gotta know. You gotta know. So we're just gonna do a little bit of waiting, but we're talking about marriage, what it means to be a husband and wife by definition, not just what does it mean today in today's world. Hey, One Love, how are you? Because today we are in a world where everybody makes their own definition of what they want for their life. Hey, GR. So I'm seeing that it's still showing the at name. I wonder how I can change that, because I want to see the name that y'all gave yourself to show, not your at name. So I'm excited to talk about it. I've actually been asking people who I know who's been married, especially for a long time, for their advice. Something I never really done before. So I'm really excited. I'm gonna be asking people, like, if I see they married, like, what's your advice? And I'm gonna tell y'all what's going on. So far, I got a little bit of advice from the people around me who are married. But I want it to come in due time. I don't want to just like, well, this is all the information. So we got 4 people. 1 person yes, 3 people said no. And if I was a vote, I would say no as well. I am not married. I've never been married. But there's so many people, they got married and then early on it didn't work out. So y'all make sure y'all like the live. Welcome, Alejandro. Welcome, friend. To sleep early, so I woke up early. Okay. I'm glad that you got some sleep in, y'all. Again, make sure y'all like the live so people can know. So we got to get the people in here. Okay, friend, we got to get the people in here for today. Tell me how y'all's day is going. I want to know. I feel like today for me has just been really calming. Bless me. Very calming. Just cleaned up a little bit. Sundays is always preparation days. Preparing for the week. That's what Sundays is for me all the time. So I just been relaxing. But yeah. How y'all been? Thank you, Derek. Thank you. Welcome, Germany. Welcome, welcome. Oh, okay. So 3 people said yes. 7 people said no. To have you ever been married? Oh, okay. Now, this conversation, I always gotta, you'll see me do this a lot because you know people want to know. You'll see me do this a lot. When I am doing this, you'll know that I'm showing people there's no ring on my finger, therefore I am not married. I'm having this conversation from the perspective of a researcher. The reason why we are having this conversation, because most of the time, most of my conversations come from my own personal interests, right? So we started off with the money mindset conversation, the love and belonging. We just did leisure. Y'all know that these conversations stem from me doing gratitude journaling every night. And so I moved that and kind of it evolved. Oh my God, it evolved into these conversations that we have on YouTube. So marriage was never a conversation that I was planning to have, right? The reason why we are having this particular conversation is because so many people on YouTube from the start, from the very start of me being consistent in these conversations, they would come on to YouTube and they would say, "Are you married? Can I marry you? Can you marry my brother, father, uncle?" Right? So that really got my mind like interesting. I never really thought about these topics before. Like my mind was not intentionally marriage mindset, right? I always had the idea like this would be cool to do, you know, getting married is like something in the books, but it was never really intentional. So I believe now how to get the bad cheat code. It's coming. We having a conversation. The more you know. The more you know, the more you'll grow. Hello, Syria. So now that I'm like, okay, we're going to have this conversation, I believe that through this conversation, it will make marriage more intentional for those who are not married, especially for me. You know, I've never really been too intentional about it, but now I feel like intentions will occur, right? You will have more intention if you are listening to these conversations consistently. On top of that, I know that there's a lot of men. There's like a loneliness epidemic when it comes to men. And if you learn the purpose of marriage and why you should get married, maybe you won't be so lonely, you know? There's a lot of reasons why there's a loneliness epidemic with men. Hopefully this conversation will decrease that for my viewers who consistently engage. So I'm super excited. I'm gonna go ahead and get started. I usually start at the 10-minute mark, but for some reason I feel like time is going a little slower today. So we're gonna go ahead and get started, because I want to start off with the etymology of it all. What is the etymology of a husband and a wife? And now, mind you, I record literally like a year ago, I recorded a whole video about the etymology of a husband and wife. The crazy thing about it is that who be changing the time? What you mean? The crazy thing about it is that the video was on mute. You could not hear anything that I said. So I think it's funny that I recorded that video a year ago and now today I'm getting into this topic. So are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Happy Sunday. So I believe the foundational knowledge that people need to know is the etymology of the words. Because etymology means where it originally came from, the original meaning. When you look at Google, the definitions, the dictionary, that often, yeah, you see my son in the window, that often is modern day definition. That's how people are using the word in today's manner. But when you look at etymology, this is originally where it came from. This is why they originally started saying this. So you look at the word husband. Oh my God, Chris, you woke up at 5? That's crazy. So you look at the word husband and the etymology of it is house bond. house bond. We talk a lot about bonds. If you be here, we talk a lot about bonds. R means house dweller, but that's like the actual person. When you look at like the action of being a husband, the etymology of it means to manage the home thriftily. So you see in definition, right? To be a husband is directly related to housing, the house that a person lives in, you know, and it directly relates to how a household is managed. And I think that that is one of the most interesting aspects of the definition of being a husband, because a lot of people, it shifted. Like the way that a household is managed has shifted when it comes to a woman's capabilities, the laws, you know, all those things, feminism. Let me look a little bit more into this because it's a little deeper. When you even think about managing a household thriftily, the first thing I think a lot of people will think about is the thrift store. But when you think about managing a household thriftily, you look up the definition of thriftily, it means to prosper. So being a husband is meaning that you're the head of the household. That's figuratively, right? You look at that sentence and it's like figuratively you're the head of the household. When you think about an actual head, the head is the body. The head is the forefront of the body. It's the face of the body. People know you off the head, off rip. So as a husband, you are the face of your household. You are the mind of the household. You are the damn near the direct number one, the like decisive figure in the household when you think about the word husband. So again, husband is a male by definition. It's not a female. It's a male, but a lot of people, it shifts over time, right? Male head of a household, master of the house, right? They are in charge of the house. You look at the etymology of a wife, and it just means woman. That's it. Like when you look at the wife, yeah, there are roles and like things that a wife does, but in definition, a wife typically just means a woman. Like when you look at the role of a husband, the husband actually has a role by definition. The wife doesn't seem to have a role strictly on the definition of it all. Does that make sense to y'all? Like, do y'all feel like that is something that makes sense to y'all? No. Why doesn't, what, when you say no? Okay. I'm glad that I asked. Because now I'm really intrigued on why it doesn't. I'm going to keep talking because I got to figure out how this doesn't make sense. Okay. Let me think about how to shift what I'm saying to make it make more sense. So even when you look at start over with the definition, okay, I can do that for you. So when you look into the definition of husband, it means male head of a household, right? On top of that, it means to manage a household thriftily, which means to manage your home in a way to which it prospers. You missed a little bit? Okay. It means to manage a home in which your home is prospering. In definition, the man, the male figure in the household, the male head of the household has a job and a responsibility. In definition, the wife does not have a responsibility immediately, right? So as a male, if you are planning to get married, understand that there is a role that you will maintain. It is a job for you to do. So you have to be prepared to learn how to manage a household in general. And when you think about, and we're going to get more into the what it looks like to manage a household. That is definitely a conversation we're going to have. But you look into it and okay. Now I'm scared that I'm gonna confuse y'all. Now I'm scared that I'm gonna start confusing people with all the stuff that I have to talk about. Y'all really got me thinking over here. Y'all gotta give me a second for my brain to catch up. Give me a second. So the wife has no specific role in marriage initially, right? By definition is what I'm talking about. By pure definition, as of what we're talking about, no. The role of a wife is to be a woman of the household, right? And a woman is just gender, right? It's just a sex. But by definition, a husband has a responsibility and a role to maintain, which is the management. Catch up, brain. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how can I make this make more sense. I think maybe that is what's getting a little bit confused, is when I said the woman has no specific role by definition. I think that's what's a little confusing, right? So you have to look at the definition yourself so y'all can be able to get the visual clue of what I'm talking about, because it will make more sense when you see it. So we already know, like, the home is where you live. The home is where you live. A woman there to just assist. Yes, the woman is assisting. But there's so much. You understand why you're divorced now? Why is that? Tell me more. Tell me more. This is just by definition. We really are on part one. We haven't really dug deeper. There's so much to these things, and I'm not saying I'm not the marriage expert. I'm just talking about the research that I've done. So when you guys get confused, that's why I'm gonna be a little confused, because I'm like, okay, I can only explain what my research is saying, because I feel like it becomes more cohesive the more we have these conversations, because we have so many different parts of marriage that we're going to talk about. And so, again, I'm not the marriage expert. I don't know all these parts. I can only research it and then come together. And I believe by the end of these conversations, the conversation will be a lot more cohesive, and I may not be as confused. I just know that marriage is not my expertise. It's not something that I really thought much about prior to this conversation. So I really want to be as much of support as possible. You say you glad you never married, dodged a bullet. Interesting. Okay. When you think about it now, I'm going to get into relating it to the human body, because a lot of times we relate a male as the head of the household, and when you think about the actual role of your actual head to your actual body, your head has a lot of responsibilities. If something happens to your head, it could affect a different part of your body immediately. Like people who have traumatic brain injuries, right? Who lose different sensations in different parts of their body. So to be ahead of anything is to know that how you manage that is how you will directly affect every other part of your body. Marriage, I believe that marriage causes more stress if you're not prepared to be in that role. So if you're not prepared to manage a household, you're going to be more stressed. It's the same way as you manage your own physical body. And this is what we talked about previously when it comes to this conversation, is there's a lot of ways in which humans marry in general, right? As an individual human being, your spirit marries your body and comes into one, and both your spirit and your body communicates with each other in order to manifest and live in life in general. And it's the same way when you're married. You have two separate beings coming together and becoming one and flourishing, or at least trying to flourish in this life. Hello, Betty. Hey, friend. And that affects my head and brain. My ex-wife wanted to be the husband and tried to make me the wife. And you know what? I'm so glad that you even mentioned that, because there's so many women out here who want to be the husband. Technically, in definition, they want to be the husband. So that I do see that being a reason. So even when you look into another word that I believe directly affects marriage is economy. The thing about it is, modern day definition, the word economy, we think about the actual entire state, the country that we live in. They're talking about the economy is failing, the economy this or this and this. But in the original sense of what economy meant was the management of the household. Hey Rico, I'm doing well, friend. How you doing? The original definition of economy was the management of the household. So who cares about what's going on around you if your personal economy is doing well? So it's a lot of different moving pieces when it comes to this conversation. I'm really excited for it to all come together. I know that it may not be as cohesive right now, but I do know that in the future it will be cohesive. So when it comes to being a husband, by definition, it's damn near like being a steward. It's, if you are religious, you are especially Christian, you hear about stewardship all the time, right? So in order to be a husband, you have to be a steward. And so that really allows you to think differently about what does it look like to manage all of these things in the house. You know, you can think about what does it look like to manage finances. And yeah, I do believe in order to be a husband, it is a very important role, and it can be all consuming, and it can become difficult if you don't have the proper foundation before marriage and during marriage. You have to maintain a strong foundation in order to be in the role of a husband, a manager, a head, right? You have to have your own personal self-care, daily things that you do for yourself in order to manage these things. So if you are a husband, you want to be a husband, there's going to be things that you're going to have to do for yourself daily in order to continue to be in that managing role. You cannot figure it out all by yourself, right? You can't do it all by yourself. So again, a couple of things. Finances is something that needs to be paid attention to, right? The roles and responsibilities, because just because a husband is the head does not mean that the husband is the role of picking things up with the hand, right? I hope as I'm moving and I'm comparing figuratively that you guys can keep the comprehension of what I'm saying together. But a husband as a head is not actually the feet walking. Does it manage the feet? Yes. But does the head have the responsibility of walking? Right. So you're not going to be over here doing everything as a husband, but you are regulating the roles of other people who's in the household. You're managing the roles or responsibilities, what's getting done, whether that means that you guys have servers, whether that means that you guys have not servers, maids, cleaners, people who come in, who fix things in your house, people who cut the yard. There's going to be a lot of different things going on in a household, and it needs to be managed by somebody. And even if it's the husband communicating with the wife and y'all are communicating about those roles and responsibilities, there is still a sense of management from that husband, making sure it's getting done efficiently. He said never married, but wanted me to be half a man, as in work and provide, right? But she wanted to be the alpha, run the relationship house and what we doing, etc. Hey Rena, baby. That's interesting. So you're also saying that you were with a woman who wanted to be a husband. We're going to get more into household responsibilities and what that means. What does that look like? We're going to talk more about that, but I'm glad that y'all thank you, baby. I'm glad that you guys are talking about this now, because that is important to know, that coming into relationships with women who they don't respect the authority of the head. Because it's the same way as if your body didn't respect what your mind is saying, right? It causes dis-ease, right? That's when we start saying that people have disorders physically in the body, is when your body is not responding to what you want it to do. So I think that's very interesting. But want to run the house. No, like I will work and provide, but wanted to run the house. So that's interesting. So in a different episode, we'll talk a lot more about the history of marriage. But I wanted to get more about the economy in regards to your own personal home and managing your own personal home. So y'all give me a second. So originally, let's show what we spending on, what we doing, etc. Oh, so she wanted to manage everything by herself. Interesting. So originally, right, economy referred to careful organization, stewardship, regulation, household, and regulation of household resources, which means food, finances, labor, and property to sustain the family unit overall. Hey. And nowadays, when you look into economy, it's more of a larger idea what it is. A relationship should be okay. Now when you look into the term economy, it's a lot greater than what it was originally used for. But I want to talk about what are the things that we need to manage it. I just talked a little bit about it all, but I want to talk a little bit about what all needs to be managed in a household. It's a lot. When I tell you the amount of stuff that I've like looked into when it comes to this conversation, I don't want to be all over the place, but it's so much to it, honestly, when it comes to it. It's so much. So in order to know, yes, like curler brains and metaphysical things. Yeah, that's interesting. So the things that needs to be managed, resources, finances, duh. Now, when it comes to this, I believe that I'm not saying that just because a man is the head of the household, he makes every single decision. It's an act of communication. You want to girl? It's an act of communication. Just like your body is always in communication with itself, you have to always be in communication with your partner in order to manage the household, manage your life. So it's not what I'm saying, what I don't want you guys to get confused is that I'm saying that the man is the head of the household, so everything he says goes. That's not what I'm saying. Because as a partner in that household, their point of view, their perspective, their reasons have just as much follow through as yours as a male, as a man of the household. But that only is what I'm saying is that you guys come together, you communicate about it, and then there's a judgment that is done typically by the man. The man is the one who makes that decisive decision about it. Okay. So that could also mean meal planning, what was being cooked, where the food is going to be, how the food is getting to the place. And just because you're the head of the household does not mean you're going to be the one grocery shopping and cooking. But there's roles and responsibilities that needs to be put out there as a man. As a man, you know that my wife typically has this role. Typically, things change. My wife typically has these roles and responsibilities. I typically have these roles and responsibilities. If we have children, we have these roles and responsibilities. We may outsource certain roles and responsibilities, and we know that these are the people doing it, right? It's just a sense of awareness and knowing what's going on in your home in order to manage it all. So the other things that needs to be managed is the space that you live in. So cleaning, repairs, the aesthetic purposes. Typically, when you go into a household, you see that a woman on average is the one managing the food, the one who's managing the environment itself. And she's typically also the emotional thermostat in the household as well. Typically, if the woman is able to be emotionally aware, in tune, and loving and caring, it often falls back into her husband. Her husband is directly impacted by his wife's emotional nature at any moment. So other things that needs to be managed in this role is relationships in general, the relationship in the people in the household. So communication, respect, boundaries, responsibilities in the emotional climate. And I would even say, you think about the relationship between a child and a mother. You ever seen like a father who is watching their child be disrespectful to the mom, and the father goes in and he puts order in that child, right? He doesn't just allow his child to be disrespectful. That is a responsibility that would occur when it comes to being in that head role in work. Me too, Chris. That's what happens when you're single. That's what you got to do when you're single. That's why you get a partner that you trust, and y'all can split up roles and responsibilities. So, does a fiance count as married? No. If on paper, I mean, some people, they say you live in a household for like a certain amount of time with an individual, y'all by law married. But technically, marriage is when you sign a contract. Some people say they don't want to go through the actual laws of the land to feel like they're married, so they're like, we married, but it's a spiritual marriage. It's up to you how you define, I guess, your own marriage. But marriage to me is when you go and you sign a contract, and on that contract, it sounds like a dictatorship. It's the way you look at it. I mean, again, I'm going to probably having to keep saying this, as if you're the male head of the household, technically, as a physical body, your head does dictate everything that's going on. So if we're using that language, which is by definition the definition, that's what's happening. So I mean, everybody want a head, right? Everybody needs a head to navigate this life. Choose a head that you like. That's all I can see it as. Choose a head that you like. And again, just because the head is the one who's navigating this life, doesn't mean that the rest of the body doesn't have a say-so. It's not like it doesn't have a say-so, right? Everybody has their own sensory experiences. They take that information and it goes back to the head. But the head is the one that makes the decision. No, hey, Deep, know the roles. It's just, if you know your role, I think that's what keeps it going. You doing the same thing, it's just on paper. Yeah, but also, see, that's what I'm telling y'all. Also, when it gets on paper, there are laws that regulate that marriage. And laws can be very helpful when it comes to being married. So I think that the laws are pretty important to maintain, to acknowledge. I don't want This Isn't Love Is Blind. I'm dead. Y'all are crazy. So even deeper into that, some more things that needs to be managed is values, the values of your household, and how you make your decisions based on values. And I think that's one thing as a woman, when you are with a man, if y'all have the same values, more often the decisions being made will be in your best benefit, because they'll be being made based off the values that you have for your household. That's what I could only imagine as someone who is, not married yet. So I think that a lot of people get fear because of things that they may have seen in their own personal life or even on TV, and the fear of a man completely decided. It's complicated. What you mean is complicated? I think that a lot of people become afraid because they see how there have been men out there who are ignorant, who have controlling personalities, maybe even narcissism, and how they lead their household into hell. Really, they're not managing their household properly and thriftily, and so unintentionally it affects the emotional climate of the household, the financial management of the household. Everything starts to feel like it's going downhill because the husband is not managing himself well. And I think that's a different conversation. In order to manage something else, you have to be able to manage yourself well. But yeah, like I was saying, I think a lot of women are afraid to allow a man to be in charge because of what they've seen. But again, when you are in the same mindset of values and y'all have the same values, I don't think that you will be as afraid. Chris, you say you're a narcissist. Why you say me? GR said only one person to decide everything may not be the best approach. You ignorant. Oh, wow, Chris. You're crazy. Yeah. Okay, so now mind y'all, this is the original definitions, y'all. Marriage has changed over time, and we're going to get to that point of where we're talking about modern day marriage and what that looks like. But this is the original definition of it all, right? This is the original reasoning of it all. And we'll talk more about history as well and what that looked like, because the history of marriage is also very interesting to me. When you try and done with bullshit. Rena. Chris, you are who? When you listen to these conversations, you can't be too much more ignorant, because you're gonna do your own due diligence and you're gonna figure it out for yourself. So even on top of that, the actual daily routines, these are ways that you manage a household. Things, putting things on the schedule, calendar, the things that you do in your day-to-day. These are things that needs to be managed in a household. So if you ever wonder how to maintain a healthy, prosperous household, these are things that you want to look into. Well, are we managing our finances? That's always one of the first things that you need to look into. Are you managing your finances well? Is your home clean? What's the food looking like in the household? Where do we store the food? What are the relationships in the household? What are the roles in the household? Is everybody managing their role well? Does somebody need help in their role? Because just because that's their original role does not mean that there's going to be ups and downs and where somebody else is going to have to pitch in. And that's one thing that I asked my grandmother, who has been married since before I was born. And I asked her, well, what is some feedback that you have about marriage? And she said, marriage is not 50-50. Marriage is never going to be 50-50. Sometimes it shifts, it's up and down, right? Sometimes the role of one individual will completely be different based on their emotional nature, their mental nature, their physical well-being. Like, if somebody gets surgery, well, they may not be able to manage certain things that they were doing previously, so you'll have to step in and do the work. And that's why marriage will never be 50-50, because things change, and that's okay. As I go and have the woman's perspective on relationship, and if I'm wrong. Chris, what you mean? As I go, learn. As I learn, I don't know. Hey, India. So, hella? Okay. Interesting. So, one word though, we see a wife, right? The word wife typically is just a woman in the household, but the word housewife usually means a woman who's married, in charge of a family or a household. So that's when you see somebody who has a role in the household, by definition, is when you get to the term housewife. So you want somebody, do you want a wife? Do you want a housewife? A housewife typically is someone who has a direct role in the household. Because it's interesting how when you look at the definition of husband, there in definition you see the house, but in just the term itself, you don't see the actual house. But when it comes to housewife, that's where you see a direct role of what is this woman doing in this house. So do you want a wife or do you want a housewife? I think that's very interesting. Well, everybody's different. Not one woman's going to be the same as the other. Exactly. That's why you come on here. Okay, period, Chris. That's what we're here for. So if Again, do you want a wife or do you want a housewife? Homemaker. That's another one. Let's look it up. Homemaker. Let's see, is that even one on here? Interesting. Praise for a man landscaping and gardening his property. So that's the definition. That's the etymology of homemaker. That's interesting that it pertains to a man on the outside. He's making the home look good. Interesting, interesting, interesting. So there's a difference between housekeepers and homemakers. Okay, period, Chris. Build your foundation. Like I said, y'all, me personally, I'm just doing research and I'm just critically thinking about it all because there's so much that goes into these conversations, really. Like, it is so much. And even what we're talking about now is just not, it's like a seed to the conversation that we're going to continue to have at the end of the day. I once said marriage is a physical and spiritual bond between two people with the aim of creating family, gaining peace, and perfecting part of one's faith. Ooh, I like that definition. I like it a lot. So you feel like a housewife would be fit for you? Like, I want a big family. And you know, like, I think that being a housewife, it was so many issues. When it came to feminism, women no longer wanted to be in that direct role. They wanted more control, right? And I think the issue is that we shifted in the roles that we have for ourselves because we did not directly begin to manage what was hindering those roles, right? The roles of being a housewife, a wife and a husband, I feel like, personally, this is not through research, this is how I feel like they begin to be demonized because one person overly took over their role, and it became like a dictatorship, right? And that's why a lot of women, mostly white women during feminism days, was like, I'm tired of this. Y'all coming in here telling us how we need to do this, this, and this. We don't have no say. We can't go to school. We can't go get a job. We can't do nothing but just do what we want to do. And it just took away a lot of people's autonomy. So I feel like the removal of an individual's autonomy is what destroyed that concept at the time. But I believe that if people, like nowadays, people have the autonomy to do as they please, be as they please, make money as they please, and now you can get together in a relationship, but still we still have that mental mindset of, well, this is what used to happen, so it's still affecting people in being able to maintain their relationships. That's just my opinion, though. Not mom and dad side. You got 20 siblings? Thank you. No, for real, 5 and 11 is crazy. 5 is still crazy, but 11 is, that was for that day and time, for sure. For sure. Hi. Hey, Jabron. Welcome back, friend. I ain't seen you in a minute. How you been? Yeah, 5 is crazy, though. I feel like, yeah. I hope that you can manage it. Strictly single? Oh, wow. Y'all are crazy. So one study done in 2016, it demonstrates the patterns of household decision making are closely linked to power, responsibility, and perceived fairness within a couple. So their findings highlight that economic decisions such as budgeting, child care arrangements, and leisure activities, remember, It reflects both financial capability and relationship dynamics, showing that management of the household is simultaneously practical and symbolic of authority and care. So whoever is the main authority, right, the leading figure in the household, is also the thermometer of the household. That's how we made it back with big families. Yeah. And TV. Yeah. That's why when I have kids, they're not going to be able to just be watching TV like that, baby. But I think that's also, like, you have to be prepared. Hello, Dr. Zeus. Of course, Jabron, where you been? Yeah, GR said the classic model of marriage isn't one size fits all suit, in my opinion. Now, mind you, I just got off the phone with my uncle, too. So I was asking him the same questions, and he said something along the lines of what GR is saying as well, is that you can't take marriage advice from everybody. Even if they have a healthy relationship, you can't take marriage advice from everybody because, number one, you're coming into your partnership with completely different backgrounds than those individuals. Now, there may be certain situations that are reflective of your experience in marriage, but that does not mean that the advice is going to be perfect, one size fits all. So understanding that you're coming into a marriage with completely different backgrounds, most likely, completely different values, hopefully not completely, but different values, different perspectives, different mindsets. And the summary of what I got from my uncle was, as long as y'all have a same destination, no matter where you're coming from, as long as you listen to understand, y'all have the same destination, no matter where you're coming from, y'all will get to that destination. You lost in the clouds. Is there a heat wave? No. We can't let them walk all over you, so it's hard. So, again, we're just talking about the original meaning of it all originally, so we could figure out how did we get to where we are today. 1 of 12 kids, 1 of 7. Oh, crazy. Yeah. I know my mom is one of, let me count. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, well, you know what? Honestly, my mama got so many siblings, but the ones that she closest with, she probably got about 5 or 6. Let me see. 3, 5, 6, 7. I got about 8 aunts and uncles on my mama's side, but they all wasn't raised in the same household. So that was about, yeah, they're not all from one person. And on my dad's side, it's about 8. Yeah, it's a lot of them. That's all from one. A man's responsibility after marriage includes providing for the family, being the head of the household, protecting and caring for the family, and guiding his wife and children religiously. I like your definitions, Iwan. Facts. I remember the song Counting Stars. What is Counting Stars? Hi, Kevin. How are you? Yeah. Religiously. I even like the fact that you use the term religiously because it to me says there's some form of order in it. There's some form of order that is beneficial for the spiritual foundation of the relationship. I like it. Really, Chris. That's good. That's beautiful. So even when we even talk about stewardship, being a steward, research on financial management shows that direct correlation to the well-being of the relationship at hand. So one article found that financial management behaviors influence relationship quality and well-being. Another one found that joint financial management correlates with fewer financial problems. So altogether, again, just because you're the head of the household does not mean that you are the final decisive. I mean, really back in, really back in. It does not mean that you're making decisions by yourself. You're in constant communication with every other individual in that household in order to know how they're feeling, what they're sensing, what they know, and you're taking all that information in, and based on not just your own opinion, but the values of your household, the direction that you guys are going. You're taking all that information in, and then you're making final decisions. So it's not like one individual just doing it all by itself. It's a lot of communication, whether that be you're paying attention to the nonverbal cues or you're actually hearing what they're actually saying. And when you communicate, there's a lot of communication breakdowns that can occur even within your own physical body. So even thinking about those communication breakdowns that could occur in a marriage, what that could mean. Had inbred children? What's inbred? The reality is everyone is single. Brian, what you talk about? Even the soul will leave the body, and the most important relationship between the soul and the body. I mean, in reality, everybody will die, yeah. But that don't mean that the act of being a soul in the body is not important. The act of marriage is not important. It is really important. I don't know, y'all. Some of y'all got y'all hurting my heart. Some of y'all's mindset about marriage. I want y'all to be happy. And we can build happy homes, happy marriages. We don't have to live by the programming of society and what they say about marriage and what they taught us about marriage. We can make our own reality based off the information that we get. Hopefully y'all can. Okay, so another thing says somebody did counseling before marriage. Yes. So another thing, someone named Carlson did a 2020 study. He found that communication quality and housework division influences marital satisfaction. So again, understanding roles in a household. I wish I had a picture. I need to put a picture to directly compare a physical body to the management of a household in marriage. I need to figure it out because I don't have it. I don't have it in my image. All I know is head, husband. Where would the wife be? Housewife. What would that look like as a body part? They be saying the housewife is, the wife is the neck. That's what they say. But I don't know. What would it be? Not real. After you make kids, y'all bonded for life. Really, for sure. For sure, bonded for life. For sure. So, yeah. That was really all that I have for today. There's so many other conversations that I want to get into, but I don't want to. I guess we can talk about, let me see. I didn't really want to get too far off. I wanted what I said today to be like a starting point of our conversation. I didn't want it to be completely going into every other conversation that I plan to have, because there's a lot of different conversations that I plan to have about this topic, seriously. But I guess what I can do is I can go into the history of marriage, or at least what I saw, the history of marriage, because I think it's in conclusion what the history of marriage taught me. Hey, PR. Okay, good start. Okay, good. So we'll do a little bit about the history of marriage, and I'll summarize it because I was looking into different cultures, and all of those things, because the earliest cultures was like Egypt, Greece, all those different places, ancient Mesopotamia, all those different places, China, Rome. Those were like some of the most ancient civilizations that we know of. And those were some of the earliest civilizations where we have data about marriage, because marriage, for most of these cultures, began with the family. It wasn't a legal thing and it was not a religious thing. It began directly for family cohesion. So families came together. Hey Jim, hey friend. Families came together. They said, we want to come together with a certain intention of being prosperous, um, making sure our family lineage survives and thrives. So therefore, I'm going to marry this woman to this man for family purposes. Outside of that, there were not many other purposes besides survival and thriving for marriage, and there wasn't a lot of um, actual laws that originally came with it. So if you want to think about the original reasoning for marriage, most of the time it was for family benefits. So nowadays, a lot of people marry without even the family acknowledging the purpose of the marriage, right? Like it's love marriages that are often being done. And even then, I didn't do any research, but I believe that like, what is it called? They do it in India where they marry their child off. I forgot the name, but it's a certain type of marriage where the people don't really know each other that well. The families get involved, and then they marry the family. They marry their children together. A lot of times those marriages last longer because they have a purpose behind the marriage. It's not just because we love each other and this was what we're doing. It's because our families made this decision and we're going to be together. Marriage that is honest, healthy, and a loyal marriage is non-existent. That's what history taught me. What history? What history you been studying? Oh my God. So in ancient Greeks, the purpose for marriage seemed to be to produce legitimate children. That's a lot of different places I've read. That was one of the reasons why people got married, was to produce children, was to have kids, and they knew these kids was theirs. So it was for, again, marriage is occurring for survival reasonings, but not just surviving, but surviving with structure and order. Love is more important than marriage. Oh, arranged marriage. Thank you, GR. So that's what it was. Arranged marriages typically, what I'm trying to say is arranged marriages typically last longer than just love marriages. This is not through research. This is just me saying this because there is a purpose and reasoning behind that marriage, for sure. And it's the family coming together to do so. And it's structured. Dowry marriage. Yeah, that's another one. Dowry marriages. So again, in ancient Greece, the reasoning for marriage was to produce legitimate children. And then it was also for structuring sexuality as well. You know how people, they just do whatever they want to do. So when you get into marriage, oftentimes it's like, well, we know for sure that we will be able to engage in sexual activities together, and it's like a given. I don't have to figure out where I'm gonna go get it from. I can get it from you, right? Unless they have radical beliefs. So the roles and legal bases were deeply patriarchal. So the father would choose her husband and arrange the marriage contract. The bride herself had little to say in the matter and was legally under the guardian's authority. And I think that is one of the biggest issues when it came to marriage of these days, is that there was no autonomy for women. Men had the autonomy to do as they please, when they please. Even through this research, a woman was subjected to like a lot of backlash if she was to do anything outside of her marriage, but the husband could go outside of his marriage to do as he pleased, and there was not as much backlash. More love marriages. To understand the word marriage and its meaning. Oh, you know, I do have to tell you guys the etymology of marriage. That's one thing. That's one of the biggest important words to talk about. But I did want to go talk about those roles, so I'm glad that I talked about that. So when you look into marriage, it's the act of entering into wedlock. State our conditioning of being a husband and wife, matrimony, wedlock. So it's you being in the idea of being a husband, that role of being a husband, the role of being a wife. You look into wedlock. There's different kinds of marriages. Yeah. And Chris, that's another thing we was going to get into, because there are so many different types of marriages. And I think that when people know, like, if you only think, okay, I want to have just this type of marriage, it makes people not want to get married. There's people who are polygamous. There are people who have open marriages. You know, there are women with multiple husbands. And I mean, that is polygamous, but I got to be direct that it's not just men who are polygamous. There are women who are polygamous as well. There's no love there. Yeah. And forge is to make one. So wedlock is the institution of marriage, state or condition of being married. Pledge giving, marriage vows. It's a practice. Being married is a practice. So I think that's very interesting. Don't be sad. Who's sad? I'm not sad. I have to run. Okay, bye, friend. Thank you, baby. Have a good day. So even then, it's you being intentional, understanding that being married, being in a marriage is being intentional for the sake of order, for the sake of your family, for the sake of survival, maintaining a role, maintaining a household, typically for the betterment of the community, not just yourself. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways that I got from this research, is that for marriage in general, originally it wasn't for just self, it was for the betterment of the community in total. And that's what the importance of having a community. You know, most marriages who don't have a community, they suffer. So again, that was for Greek. In Rome, a better world. Better world starts with you and your household, for sure. You can only do so much. We can't worry about the world. We can just worry about our households. So, for Rome, some of the purposes and functions for a marriage was for property, legacy, and social status. Right? Also for legitimate children. All those things. And to forge alliances in families. So you can see a lot of these, because I'm not going to keep going into all of them because there's so many to talk about. But in summary, you can tell that for marriage, it was for order, for structure. A lot of times, if you don't have order and structure, then life just seems to just do all different types of things, right? It doesn't seem to have a consistency. A consistency for the community, not just for you. So marriage had a lot of different reasons why it was important. I think I will get a little bit deeper into it in a different conversation. Again, I just wanted to start this conversation today the way we did start it. Because originally marriage had the intentions of creating stability, especially socially, for the children, legitimate heirs, for social reasonings, right? A man who has a family is perceived more responsible, more stable, all those things. And for community and family, it could be outside people influencing people in the marriage on how they think and feel about the marriage. Yeah. And I think that's the reason why there's so many things that go into marriage. There's so many different things that go into marriage. So many things. That's why communicating with your partner first about everything is the most important thing in the world. All married people for like 20, 50 years, they start to favor look-alike each other. No, I never noticed that. I never noticed that. Oh my God, my communication. I never noticed that. It's never something I even thought about, honestly. At all. Sorry, y'all. My eyes start to water sometimes. It's allergies. But no, I never, not even my grandparents. I don't even think they look alike. I just think that when people start getting older, they just start looking, old people look alike in a way because they get old. That's what I think. Yeah. So far, I think that's all I want to talk about for today. We'll have longer lives, so don't worry about this live being short. We'll have a lot more longer lives as we continue the conversation. But we had 31 people vote, and 32% said yes, they have been married, and 68% said no. Interesting. So majority of the people have not been married. Well, I think next time I'll ask a different question. We'll do ours tomorrow. And I don't know what topic I'm going to talk about. I have a whole order, but I feel like sometimes when you do it in an order that feels like what you want to do that day, like what I want to talk about that day, it feels better. So I have a whole order for the conversations, but we'll see how the order goes. Is most some people value their friends or family's opinion on their partner more than their own. Yeah. And I think that we'll definitely have that conversation about preparing for marriage, because in order to be in a partnership, you gotta be solid in who you are. You gotta be solid in who you are, where you're going, what you want out of life, your values. And if you can't even do that for yourself, baby, how you gonna manage and maintain a relationship? So, and that's another one, marriage and self-actualization, right? Because a lot of people are very codependent. They forget that even though I'm married, I still have a whole being to maintain outside of this marriage. Sometimes family or friends can see stuff you can't, though, so it goes, well, exactly, Rico. Exactly. So here's some conversations that I have. I know I told y'all before, but I'm going to tell y'all again. So we talked about the house, husband, what it means to be a husband and a wife. We're definitely going to get deeper on the topic of housing, because housing affects marriage in general, not just individual marriages, but the whole institution of marriage, especially the economy effect on housing, the housing market, the ability to afford housing, all those things. So it has a direct effect on marriage. Preparation for dating in marriage. Love is blinding. Come here, baby. Here's my son, y'all. Just in case y'all wanted to see y'all's nephew. Just in case y'all want to see y'all's nephew today. I don't know what conversation do I want to have next. We gotta figure out. There's like literally 17. I don't think I'm gonna try to do 17 conversations, but that's how many topics I came up with. I really did dwindle some of them down and make it into one topic. So I'm still trying to figure out how I can kind of combine some of these. I'm trying to figure out how I can combine some of these in order to not be so long. Oh Lord, I'm sorry, my son. So y'all tell me, do y'all want to get married? I know a lot of people in the chat been saying no, they don't even want to get married. That's crazy to me. Like, don't even want to get married ever. But that's another topic we're gonna have, is how to know marriage is not for you. Why you should stay single, why you should not get married. I was trying to think about everything. Oh, there was one that I was thinking about today. What was it? How we've been programmed on marriage. I was watching a video today. I was watching this guy. He was talking about how millennials were programmed through the media that they consumed, and why a lot of people act the way they act based off the media that was prominent at the time. It was very interesting. I was like, okay, so I mean, of course, the media is different for every generation, but I wonder if there is a common theme in the media that is being projected about marriage. I think it will depend on culture. So I would have to kind of dim it down to maybe my culture, and then maybe look at another culture in maybe 3 cultures so we can compare how each culture is programming their society to be married. What does that look like? What does that seem like? So I think that's another topic that I was thinking about today. I think that would be very interesting, all in all. But I'm excited for this one. It's a broad topic. Boil it down. Today's marriage situation is too fluid, making marriage more difficult. Yeah, GR, it is a very broad topic. I mean, even me explaining this, I'm a little scared because I'm like, I don't want to confuse people. That's not what I'm here for. I don't want to confuse anybody. I just want to say what I'm seeing. What is it, you know? Okay, here we go. Thank you. Thank you for the support. I really do appreciate everybody. I think I'm going to go for now. And I'll be back on tomorrow, 6 p.m. Central Time. And it will be a surprise whatever we talked about. It will be a surprise because I don't know where I want to go for tomorrow. I want to try to make it a lot more cohesive. I feel like previous conversations, it was easy for me to make it cohesive. It was natural. But because I'm not in this, and it wasn't something I really thought about a lot, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to make it cohesive, okay? So I'll see y'all tomorrow. We'll continue our conversation. I'm super excited. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Bye. Thank you for participating.